Let's bring in a business economist with extensive experience in the financial markets, Charles Dumas, Director at Lombard Street Research. Thanks so much for coming in to talk to us. Just looking at the situation we're in at the moment, these austerity measures clearly need to be done, that's what everybody's saying, but are they likely to choke off these green shoots of recovery that we're seeing?
Well, I mean, austerity and public spending may need to be done if the public spending is wastage, but austerity in the government deficit, I think, is a straightforward mistake. And so it doesn't need to be done at all, clearly or otherwise. The government deficit is offsetting a very large private sector surplus, and the private sector needs a surplus because the private sector has too much debt, which it needs to repay over several years, and if it doesn't have the surplus, it won't repay the debt, which means that the economy is liable to founder. And that's, I'm afraid, what I think is going to happen.
So you really think that the chances are that... is it these specific government measures that are going to choke off growth, or is it that the fiscal stimulus was what was giving us the growth, almost falsely inflating the manufacturing in the first place?
Well, I wouldn't call it necessarily falsely. The fiscal stimulus was a necessary process of effectively transferring debt from the private sector, where it was screwing up the economy, to the public sector, where, you know, you don't like having it there, but it's safely parked, as it were. Right. That is now being stopped. So I think a continuation of the existing level of deficit, or something close to it, is necessary for really quite a long time, possibly measured in years, and the time to pull it back is when we've demonstrably achieved above-trend growth for a decent period.
Now, the kind of growth that we're seeing at the moment, it's in manufacturing, it doesn't seem to be in services. Are those the kind of things that are worrying you going forward?
Well, no, I mean, I think the manufacturing recovery is highly desirable because people were slashing inventory and slashing capex a year ago, and now they're not doing so anymore, and that's the basis of the recovery. And the other basis of the recovery is that you had huge stimulus in China and the United States, and those things are spreading around the world, if you like. And they do so with a delay, so that's what we're benefiting from now. But of course, what's going on now is that China is overheating and is going to tighten up. The United States is clearly slowing down, and Europe is in massive deflation mode on the fiscal front. So you're left with the thought that probably in a year's time the economy will be foundering, as I say.
Now, if in a year's time the economy, we are slipping back into negative growth, at that point, do you think then we'll see another round of fiscal stimulus? I mean, how does the government deal with this?
Well, I'm not sure that we'll necessarily go back into recession. Right. Because the economy needs to grow at something like 2.5% a year just in order to keep on an even keel. So it just has to stop growing, and we're already in trouble. But in that situation, I would expect them suddenly to find themselves less eager to pursue some of the retrenchment that they're currently pursuing. Because, you see, the private sector surplus is the driving force here, and the government deficit is the response. And the private sector surplus is not going away. The people are not suddenly confronted with magical writing off of some of their debts, although some of the Americans are simply sort of walking away from it. Yes. But apart from that, the government deficit is simply going to be there, and it'll come back through recession if it doesn't just get accepted in the form it is now.
Okay. Charles Dumas, thank you very much indeed for joining me today.